Weird photos from history with baffling backstories. Discover the weirdest photos ever taken in this collection of astounding animals, incredible inventions, and extraordinary events that are completely one of a kind. While the annals of history are littered with weird photographs, the truly strange pictures are the ones that remain airy or downright disturbing even after you've learned the stories behind them. In fact, some of the most astoundingly weird photos from history are the ones that only become more bizarre after you've learned their backstories. Alfred Hitchcock meets Leo the lion. The sounds of a growling lion are surely etched into most of our memories as a clear sign that a movie is about to begin. And the beloved lion used for MGM's title credit was indeed a real specimen named Leo the lion. Given that Leo was an icon of cinema himself, it was only right that he meet fellow film legend, director Alfred Hitchcock. Thankfully, their 1957 tea time was captured in time so that we could enjoy it forever. Back when Mexico was a haven for American fugitives dreaming of liberty, escaping the law by hopping over the border was not uncommon. Captured in 1939, this photo shows just how close one particular lawbreaker came to freedom at the border in El Paso, Texas. The Dynasphere. Finished in 1932, the Dynasphere seemed like something out of the era's science fiction literature. Patented 2 years earlier by English engineer Dr. J.A. Apurves, this motorized monowheel prototype weighed 1,000 pounds and could reach top speeds of 30 miles per hour. Unfortunately, it was tremendously unwieldy and thus never caught on. World War I sound finders. Dubbed sound finders, these World War I soldiers were tasked with identifying where exactly enemy planes were approaching from via acoustic location. It's unclear how effective these primitive contraptions actually were, but armies on both sides of the conflict used devices like these in the days before radar. Sunlight therapy. When this strange picture was snapped in 1927, it was thought that sunlight therapy effectively treated patients with malaria. Though they may look shockingly antiquated, UV lamps like these only fell out of favor for such purposes in the 1960s. The Mickey Mouse Club in the 1930s. The uniform mob of smiling humanoid mice seen here were gathered for an early meeting of the Mickey Mouse Club in Ocean Park, California, circa 1930. Spectators at the trial of Al Capone. Deemed public enemy number one by the U.S. government, Chicago gangster Al Capone made a fortune in bootlegging and other illegal rackets during Prohibition. His reign finally came to an end in 1931, when the authorities were able to bring him up on income tax evasion charges that ultimately landed him in prison for 8 years. The terror that this notoriously ruthless gangster inspired in others is perfectly encapsulated in this image from his 1931 trial, in which spectators hide their faces from news cameras. Whether they were fellow gangsters looking to fly under the radar or civilians scared of incurring Capone's wrath, seemingly no one wanted to be recognized at this historic trial. Motorized roller skates. Salesman Mike Dreschler fills up the tank for his motorized roller skates at a Sunoco station in Hartford, Connecticut. Produced by the Motorized Roller Skate Company of Detroit starting in 1956, these seemingly convenient skates sold for $250 and reached speeds of 17 miles per hour. In addition to their exorbitant cost, which would be around $2,300 today, the skates weighed a whopping 19 pounds. While these factors prevented the skates from ever truly taking off, perhaps their most glaring failure was their lack of brakes. Vintage Halloween costumes. Halloween costumes of decades past were undoubtedly far creepier than anything you'll see today. From unnerving doll masks to bags placed over children's heads, the guidelines were a little less stringent back then, making the costumes all the more disturbing. Turkey's drunk baskets. During the 1960s, many bars in Turkey employed basket men called küfesi to transport inebriated ruffians home if they were too drunk to stand. The regional saying küflük olmak, or needing to be carried home in a basket, is still used to this day. Dr. Carl Tanzler and his human doll. In 1930, Florida Dr. Carl Tanzler fell in love with his patient, Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos. Though she died of tuberculosis the following year, Tanzler wasn't ready to let go. Determined to keep Hoyos alive, Tanzler stole her body from the mausoleum and used the corpse to fashion a sort of human doll. He held her body together with coat hangers, wax, and silk while replacing her eyes with glass and stuffing her torso with rags. Though he was eventually caught after sharing his home and his bed with her for 7 years, the statute of limitations had expired, leaving Tanzler free to go. Woodrow Wilson Flash Mob. The likeness is striking. President Woodrow Wilson looks forward with hair cleanly parted and glasses firmly in place. Remarkably, this 21,000-person proto-flash mob was executed so diligently that it looks like a painting from afar. Captured on September 5, 1918 at Ohio's Camp Sherman, soldiers of the U.S. Army's 95th Division did an astounding job modeling the visage of their commander-in-chief. Poon Lim's 133 Days at Sea. Chinese sailor Poon Lim was working aboard a British merchant vessel when it was sunk by a German U-boat on November 23, 1942. After surviving the initial strike, he managed to find an 8-foot wooden raft and a few supplies. Miraculously, he used what he'd found to survive the next 133 days alone at sea before he was ultimately rescued as he neared the coast of Brazil.